Hello. Welcome back. Okay, so in the last video, we were just kind of talking about or going over at least how to make variables in R and sort of the finickiness and the strength of R with some pretty basic examples. Okay, and now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be reading in data, right? Because that's what this whole class is about. This whole class in statistics uses data. Okay, so we need to, even though it seems kind of simple, at least here on the slide, we need to know how to do it correctly. Also, oh my gosh, I figured out the mouse. I figured out the mouse thing, I think. So it's not huge, comically large. It's the normal size, right? So it shouldn't be too distracting anymore. Hopefully it wasn't too distracting in the beginning. My bad if it was, but we're good now. Another thing that I forgot, and I can't believe I forgot this. I think I forgot it in the last one too. I love music. Okay. It's my favorite thing. If I could give up everything and just have the one thing, it'd be music. I always do like an album of the week kind of thing, or at least album of the section, whatever we're doing. And I've got a recommendation just to keep things fresh. Okay. Cause I know learning online and being kind of stuck at home is a big bummer. And it kind of blows. So having music to listen to, for me at least, is a nice escape. So here's the album of the week. Madison Cunningham, Who Are You Now? Literally every song on here hits. It's super good. Pin It Down. If you're a music aficionado, this is a really interesting song. Rhythmically and melodically, it's got all this kind of cool stuff. So anyway, this is it. If you use Spotify, it's on there. If you use Apple Music, I'm sure it's on there too. Really anywhere. Super good. I use Spotify because I think it's superior. So not trying to start any flames or anything. So anyway, this is the album of the week. Go listen to it while you're studying. It's good study music. It's pretty funky too. So anyway, we'll just get back into it. So we're reading in data. It's super important because if you don't do it correctly, this is where most errors come from. It's very important that we kind of know how to catch these things early so we don't run into problems in the future that are easy to fix but really frustrating. Okay. So as you know, or hopefully, and if you don't, that's okay. But data can be stored as tons and tons of different things. You're probably used to XLSX, that's Excel. Those are Excel files. In this class, we're going to be mostly dealing with .csv and .text files. Whatever, they can both be opened up in Excel if you want to take a look. But these are the most, I would say these three are the most common in our department and probably elsewhere. But, good to know, I think, how to get these in. Also, though, we have a few other types. .dat, sometimes we'll see. I don't think in this class we will, but in other classes I've run into it, or at least other people teaching these kinds of classes. Usually, some for some reason only use .dat, which is fine. R capital D data, R data. That's when you save. If I were to save the environment here, that gets stored as an R data file. Again, I don't really ever do that. To be honest, if you do everything correctly in the script and your script runs, then you just need to run the script every time. You don't need to save the environment as anything, whatever. And then SQL, structured query language. We will never, ever be doing anything with that in this class because that kind of has its own language associated with it. But if you're in comp sci, maybe econ too, or intending on working out in the in industry, whether you're computer science or statistics or data science or whatever, SQL is used all the time. It's more or less sort of accessing a database that way, and it might be private, it might be public, whatever. And then you also have JSON files, super rare in stats. I think it's common in computer science. Not totally sure. That's what somebody told me. But I've only ever seen it, I think, once, and it was sent on accident. So it's not totally traditional. It's got extra information in there, whatever. Not too much of a big deal. Now, this is a stats class. It's a lot of programming, but there is one thing that if you learn only one thing, if you only learn a single thing, it's that file management and organization is really freaking important. So important. I don't care if you turn into the best statistician in the world. That's great. But if you're the best statistician in the world and you are not organized or you're disorganized and you can't manage files correctly, then to me, what are you doing? I think that this is the most important thing that you'll get out of this class. Just throwing everything onto your desktop is not great. That's a super bad way, I think, of doing things. It's very disorganized. You lose things all the time. Oftentimes, I find students, this is sort of lacking, and that's totally fine. Because like, when did you ever really need to be totally organized with your file system? Whatever, I totally get it. But now this is a good time to kind of organize things. Take an hour, put on some nice headphones, and listen to the album of the week, and just kind of get things organized. Because this class, we're going to be working with a ton of data. And if you get, your scripts lost and your data lost and your R projects lost or whatever, you don't know where to find them, that's on you, right? Being disorganized, to me, is probably the most frustrating thing. And I think that this class, I hope never gets frustrating. I hope it never gets stressful. But I found that when folks do get frustrated, it's because they just don't know where things are on their computer, right? So it's really freaking important just to make sure that we've got everything where we know it is. We want to know where everything is all the time, right? So just leave that blank so you can't hold it against me. Okay. So anyway, I'm off my soapbox now. Your computer and you typically have this kind of workflow, this kind of organization flow up until right here, at least. And then everything else is on you. Okay. So you have your computer and then you have your documents folder on there. And this is the same. This is on Windows. This is on, or at least on PCs. This is on Apple products. This is on Linux, whatever. This kind of concept holds true across all different OS operating systems. Okay. Anyway, so you have your computer and then you have your documents folder. And what I recommend is that you have your own class folder, right? You can do it by semester too, as you can kind of see down here. I've got me, and then the documents folder, and then spring, in this case, spring 2020. It's now 2021, of course. And then the class, and then our data, right? So this, you can get as organized or as disorganized here as you want. I know some people just have this class as the project folder and just throw everything in there. I wouldn't do that. But if you know where everything is, then you're good, right? It's not my job to know where you keep things or tell you where to keep things, at least. And then you have within the project folder where everything, your data, your script for that project, your R session, whatever. For me, I like to do the class, and I'll show you here in a second. I like to do the class. I like to do the semester and then the class. And then in R, I like to keep things kind of separate. So when we do figures, I'm going to make my own figures folder. When we do t-test, I'm going to have my own t-test folder, et cetera, et cetera. And then within those folders, I'm going to have all of the relevant information that I need. So that's data, that's our R script, that's our maybe our environment, if we wanted to save it, whatever. It's going to be all in there, and I know where to look. Now, you'll see some really long kind of convoluted stuff here. I'm not too worried about you understanding what this is. I'm going to go away from teaching this in the future because this is kind of complicated. The only thing that I've mentioned here is like if you choose to, specify things in this way. So in this case, it's users, me, the documents, the semester, the class, and then the data. That works, but that's complicated, right? For a few reasons. If you were to go into your file system, copy and paste the path, which is this thing, right? This is the way that it looks. But for some reason, R needs these forward slashes instead of backward slashes, backslashes. It's super annoying because when you copy and paste it in. It does it like this, but it needs it like this. So whatever. There are easier, more elegant ways to do it. And that looks like this, okay? Set working directory, that's what this function here says, or at least stands for, translates to, we'll say. Set WD, set working directory. And then looks like this, and then you can just call in your data without needing to type this in every single time. I'll show you an easy way to do that as well. And we can kind of see the equivalency here. So what's the next? Oh yeah, okay. So our working directory, this is kind of a pain in the ass to type in every time, or at least find where we want to do it. There's an easier way. Thank the Lord, because this can be really complicated really quickly. We can go into session, working directory, and then choose working directory. And that brings up the file system, okay? So let me actually show you before we move on. So this is old. This is from the last video. I want to get rid of this. I want to get rid of the environment, which we will do that. I also want to kind of clean up the console here. Again, deleting the environment deletes it forever and you have to rerun everything. Deleting the console only cleans it up. And I do the same thing. Boop. This little broom here. It's not as colorful as the broom up here, but similar idea, right? Deleting things out of the console is easy enough as just cleaning it up. Deleting things out of the environment, you have to do a bunch of work to get it back, right? Now, do I want to delete everything in here? Not really, but I want to keep it. So what I'm going to do is I could come here and say save and then call it, example script, whatever. I'm not going to save it right now because I don't want to, or at least I don't want to put that on my computer. But what I am going to do is I'm going to come up here to this little icon with the sheet with the plus sign. I'm going to hit that. Whoa, look at that. We've got all this stuff in here. I just want a new script. So I'm just going to do that. It's called Untitled 2, whatever. This one's called Untitled 1. You can kind of see where that convention comes from. I could also come up here into File, hit New File, hit New File, whoop, and it gives me the same options. I like this because it shows the icon. We're only ever going to be doing stuff with our script. But the kind of cool thing, I think, is that you can run, if you're familiar with Python, you can run Python in Rstudio. You can run SQL, Stan. This is like C++. You can actually run C++. You can do all this stuff. It's pretty cool, I think. So whenever I work in Python, I either use Rstudio or Jupyter Notebook, whatever. That doesn't matter. Okay, so sorry, I'm getting off track there. Okay, so I want to read in some data. I've got some data that I want to work with. And it's stored in, the semester and this class, okay? And it's stored in, whatever folder I wanted to store it in. But I don't want to have to type in set working directory and then like pretend that I know where the thing is. Like, I don't know. I don't want to do that, okay? So what I'm going to do is say session, set working directory, and then choose directory. There's some other options here, whatever. We're only going to be focused right here on choose directory. Check it out. So usually I already have a project in there. That's why it opened right up to it. But usually it'll kind of spit you out in a random spot. Hopefully you can see this too. But I've got my file system open. This is the documents folder. And I just want to get to spring 2021. That's where we're at. Click on that. I've got some extra stuff in here. I don't even know. Statistical methods, that's this class. Whoa, and look at all this. Okay, so you can kind of see I've got everything organized somewhat decently, I think, in here. And I have a folder called live example. And that's where everything is. Okay, I know that's where everything is. That's where I put my data. Okay, it doesn't show up here because it's just showing the folder. It's not showing all the stuff that's in it. So I'm going to hit open. Booyah. Okay, so what do we see? What do we see? Let me actually get rid of this. I don't want to save that. Okay, so in the console here, it ran a line of code for me, and it didn't spit it up here first in the script and put it down here. It just did it automatically, which is pretty sweet, right? Now, to me, going into session, set working directory, choose directory, and then finding the thing, that's kind of annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this right up here onto line 1. And then every single time that I come into this script, I'm just going to run set working directory, and then I'm good. Everything that I'm going to work with is there. How do I know everything I'm working with is there? Well, if you recall, I have this plots area right here. There's also a files little tab. If I hit files, whoa, check it out. I've got two data sets in here called badlands.csv and muscle.csv. We're going to be working with the muscle one for just a second. It's all here, right? And I know it's all there because I put it in there earlier. I like doing it like this. I like having the folder or the files kind of section open just so I can make sure I'm in the right spot. And then if I were to then, let's say, add in some new thing. I'm just going to take this. I'm going to copy and paste this script into the folder that I'm working in right now. Live example. Booyah, put that script in there. This is totally random. I don't really know what this is. Check it out. When we come out of here, so this is sort of the folder, right? This has got all the stuff. It shows up right there. Sometimes it takes a second for it to show up, but it's in there now. And if I can work with it directly, I can just leave it in there, whatever. Okay. So let me actually, just before I forget, you can fast forward through this. I'm gonna take that out of there because I don't want it, because that's disorganized in my head. So we'll delete that. Okay, so we've got our working directory set. Now I actually want to read in. Look, the thing is gone. Now I want to read in these data, not this data because it's plural. Just a little English for you. So we have these data in here. Muscle.csv, that's what it's called. And I want to call it, I could call it actually anything I want. I could call it data. I could call it dat. I can call it my data. I can call it, so that's my, let me move that. My underscore data, my dot data, my dot, dot dot data. I could call it whatever I want, right? I could call it Harold. I could call it whatever. I could call it anything, okay? So I'm just going to call it muscle for now because I know what that data is. And I'm going to store, okay, so it's going to get, and then I need the correct function, right? I need to read it in with the correct function. If we come back to the old PowerPoint here, we'll see that it is important to read in data correctly. If I were to use read.csv on an Excel file, it won't work. If I were to use read.table on a CSV file, it also won't work, or at least as easily. So you need to make sure that this function, or sorry, this kind of tail here needs to match the actual type of file that you're working with. In this case, we're working with a CSV file, so we're going to be using read.csv. Okay, very cool. So I know that that's going to be read dot. Whoa, look at that. So one kind of nice thing about R is that it kind of wants to complete your sentence for you, which is nice. So if I wanted to, it gives me all these extra things. I could just select read.csv. I clicked it that time. I could also just type it in, whatever. And as far as this goes, we could just put in muscle, right? Muscle.csv. It needs to match the name, the file name exactly. R is case sensitive, which we'll see in just a little bit. But it's very important that we stick with proper spelling. Okay. Now, each function, read.csv in this case, but every function has a bunch of different arguments that you can put in there. You can specify. Okay. I'm a big fan of coming in here and seeing, okay, what do I have to work with? Whoa, good Lord. Tons of stuff. Right now, I just care about file. Okay, so if I click on that, I could also just type it in, whatever. It gets the equal sign. Very important, it gets the equal sign because it's inside the function. Arrows go outside the function. Equal signs go inside the function. The file equals, and I want to work with the muscle data. So all I'm going to do is quotation marks. So important to use quotation marks because if you don't, for instance, it's not going to work, right? I get this error, error and read.table, whatever, object muscle.csv is not found because I did not correctly specify it. So if I come in here, I highlighted at that time and put the quotation marks around it, pretty slick. I think easy enough. If I hit Control Enter, I'm gonna run that. Booyah, and check it out. So I have muscle, it's called muscle, and it gets the data from here. And it's 60 observations of 3 variables. I can come in here and click it. Nice, okay. Age, density, and sex, okay. So in this case, this muscle data set is looking at how age affects muscle density and how sex affects muscle density and kind of the combination of the two. There's some weird stuff going on here with the column name. I'll show you how to fix that in a future video. No biggie right now, okay, but it's in there. Oh man, so that was a ton just to read in one single thing. Well, here is another trick, and this is what makes RStudio so nice, okay? I can come in here into the files thing, and I could click on this, and I could say view file or import dataset. I can also come up here to import dataset, and it gives me a bunch of different options. Similar options that we saw, Excel, SPSS, SAS, Stata. Let me actually go back to the PowerPoint just for a moment. R is not the only statistical software. There's also a bunch of other ones too that save data in their own kind of way. R is nice because you can download this package called foreign and read in these types of data. If you know, sometimes you can kind of see the fields that are used to using these things. Whatever, no big deal. If you like R, which I hope you do, eventually at least, then you know, this is good to know. Anyway, back to R. So I want to come in here and say, okay, click on that. I'm going to import the data set. Whoa, look at that. So it gives me the directory already. It shows me a preview of this. And then we've got a bunch of options down here. First row is names. Yes, right. So the way that I have it saved in the CSV in the actual file is that the first row here is the name of each column. Okay, so I want that checked. I always want that checked. Trim spaces, open data viewer, whatever. Trim spaces, leave that checked. Open data viewer, that's just gonna open it up and show you what it looks like, similar to what we just saw over here. Booyah. And then I'm just going to hit import, but you'll notice one thing. Whoa, you'll notice one thing is that it uses the same name as the file we have in our folder here as the name. So both of these are doing the same thing, but we just have it named differently. Whatever, no big deal, no big deal. And I can just come in here and take the code that it ran on its own and copy and paste it and put it up here and does the same thing, right? Easy enough. You'll notice that it does slightly different, you know, read.csv instead of read_CSV, whatever. No biggie. This is, I like doing this just because I know I can kind of have a little bit more freedom with it, but again, totally up to you. When you're using Excel, if you decide to use Excel for whatever reason, this is very handy, right? So you just come in here, hit browse, and find whatever Excel file you wanted. Oh boy, okay, so that's reading and data. That is it. I think that's really all I want to say. Yeah, and that's pretty much that. I know that was a lot for literally 2 lines of data or of code, but I think it's super important that we get this down sooner rather than later, just because, well, this is this is the foundation. Reading and data is literally the first thing that you always have to do, or at least setting your working directory and then reading in the data. That is the first thing you always got to do, right? Or else you literally can't do anything else. Okay, so with that, I will say see ya next time.